day to move our agenda forward. Amid many challenges, to forge a path in the direction of progress. This is the essence of our commitment to make progress despite challenges and move forward by overcoming great obstacles. We must never be defined by our problems, and Kenya's destiny cannot be derailed by our challenges. Honorable members, the cost of living is not an abstract phenomenon. It is a reality experienced by households, which can be addressed through practical action and effective measures. One of the most salient interventions in addressing the high cost of living is the strategy to support agricultural production throughout the sector, ranging from food and cash crops as well as livestock value chains. I am committed to put the shame of hunger behind us once and for all. We rolled out a countrywide farmer registration and fertilizer subsidy program that has made available 5.5 million bags to farmers across Kenya. We have progressively reduced the cost of fertilizer from 6,500 to 2,500. Increased maize acreage under production by an extra 200,000 acres this year, and enhanced maize production by an additional 18 million bags this year. As a result of this intervention, today a 2 kilogram packet of maize is selling at a low of 145 and a high of 175, depending on the brand you buy, down from 250 shillings a few months ago. The famous gorogoro of maize is selling at between 60 and 75. Honorable members, know how much a few months ago. We have also established 22 new fish landing sites in 9 counties in Nyanza and the Coast region. We have funded and organized beach management units into cooperatives, set up 2 hatcheries in Kabonyo, Kisumu County, and in Shimoni, in Kwale County. And we are in the process of completing Liwatoni fish processing plant in Mombasa by end of next month, and Shimoni port by the end of next year. Again, to bring our blue economy resources into the realm of food production. To achieve efficiency, transparency and accuracy in fertilizer distribution, we enroll farmers on a digital register with accurate details of the location and acreage of their agricultural land holdings. This database enabled us to implement an e-voucher system through which farmers receive their fertilizer consignments for planting and top dressing of maize, tea, coffee, rice, potatoes, cotton, edible oil, sugarcane across the country. Our farmers are the best people to speak about the success of the fertilizer program. Yesterday, I spoke to several farmers in different parts of the country. Ms. Alice Nato, a single mother in a place called Milo in Bungoma, told me that the 2,500 fertilizer had doubled in her farm from 52 bags of maize last year to 120 bags of maize this year. Another farmer, Mr. Albert Munyi from Embu, appreciated the impact of fertilizer subsidy had in his farm and asked me to work out a way that the fertilizer can be delivered closer to the farmers rather than the National Cereals and Produce Depot. I assured him that I will work with the governor of Embu and with all governors to actualize his proposal for him and for other farmers who believe the same. But it was Mr. Samuel Chacha of Kuria who graphically painted the picture of transformation the fertilizer subsidy has done in his farm. With a phrase that struck my mind. He simply told me, Mr. President, shamba yangu inameta. Father, we have made adequate arrangements, including investment in necessary infrastructure to facilitate post-harvest management and to prevent post-harvest losses. 17 certified warehouses jointly managed by the National Cereals Board and the private sector owners with a combined capacity of 365 metric tons or 4,090,000 bags have been prepared in the maize growing areas. The National Cereals and Produce shall provide a subsidy maize drying service to farmers at a fixed cost, as was announced by the Minister of Kenya shillings 70 per bag, which is a significant improvement from the previous rate of Kenya shillings 350 per bag. Yesterday again, the first consignment of the 100 mobile dryers. This house facilitated my administration to buy for use by our farmers. I announced to you yesterday the first consignment of the dryers docked in the country. Additionally, we are enhancing dairy productivity for better farmer returns. The government, working with milk processors, and I had a long conversation with them in Nakuru. We are mapping the country to ensure coolers are supplied where they are needed. Soon, farmers will be paid based on milk quality, boosting incomes, and they can also enjoy global market access. Our reforms in the coffee sector are bearing fruit, with our farmers set to earn 4 times advance pay for their crop from a low of 20 to now Kenya shillings 80, following the allocation of Kenya shillings 4 billion from the Coffee Cherry Fund that was ably facilitated by this House. Coffee reforms regulations will give farmers the necessary representation and weight at the national coffee auction. It is my intention to make sure that the auction operates with farmers at the center of it. These measures are expected to aid ongoing efforts, including expanding production to new counties and double coffee output in the next 4 years. The government of Kenya is currently restructuring public sugar mills, expediting the leasing of 5 companies for rehabilitation and expansion to boost industry competitiveness before the Commercial Sugar Safeguards expire. The objective includes creating a competitive sector, raising farmer incomes, and enhancing productivity. This House agreed with my cabinet that we waive Kenya shillings 117 billion non-performing debt for government-owned sugar factories, for which I am grateful to this House. This House also approved 1.7 billion shillings that will go into paying farmer arrears and other complications that arose out of the challenges our sugar sector was facing. I want to promise this House that in the next couple of weeks, we shall be dispersing that money so that farmers in the sugar growing area can go home for Christmas with their home for Christmas with their home for Christmas. As I indicated, home for Christmas. As I indicated, home for Christmas. As I indicated, long 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 the cost of credit and Kenyans on my first day in office. Times were difficult and many people are struggling, and necessary and effective sustainable solutions were urgently needed. We must admit, honorable members, that as a country, we had been living large and way beyond our means. The time has come, therefore, to retire the false comforts and illusionary benefits of wasteful expenditure and counterproductive subsidies on consumption, by which we dug ourselves deeper into the hole of avoidable debt. The new direction may not be easy, but it is ethical, responsible, prudent, and most importantly, necessary. We've had to take hard decisions and make painful choices because we owe it to the people of Kenya to do the right thing and to confront facts as they are without flinching or equivocating. We have worked hard at home and abroad to mobilize a broad coalition of bilateral development partners. Many of them, I see them in this house, multilateral development banks and other agencies, which have rallied to pull our country back from the brink of debt distress and set us today firmly on the path towards sustainable economic growth. Our efforts to stabilize the situation have yielded such progress that next month, in December, we will be able to settle the first Kenya shillings $300 million or 500 billion Kenya shillings installment of the US dollars 2 billion Eurobond debt that falls due next year. I can now confirm with confidence that we will and we shall pay the debt that has become a source of much concern to citizens, markets, and our partners. Having said this, I further announce to the nation that our intention, consistent with sustained effort here and abroad, have enabled us to normalize our relations with the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the Africa Development Bank, and various development partners to such an extent that they are now working with us to implement the bottom-up economic transformation plan. As I earlier indicated, our public borrowing had long crowded our productive sector from the financial markets, raising the cost of credit and slowing down trade and commerce, especially the micro, small, and medium enterprises, including Mama Mboga. Consequently, many enterprises and entrepreneurs were referred for blacklisting by the credit reference bureaus, where 7 million borrowers were listed by last year. We committed to provide affordable and accessible credit and restore small business owners to good standing with credit rating agencies. A deliberate, targeted strategic financial inclusion fund, the Hustler Fund, providing affordable credit and mobilizing savings for individuals and small businesses, was launched on the 30th of November 2022. The public response to the Hustler Fund has exceeded most initial projections and surprised even the most hardened skeptics. By the end of last month, the fund had disbursed Kenya shillings 36.6 billion, and in savings, 2.3 billion, and with 7.5 million repeat borrowers, whose overall repayment rate is at 73%. The top borrower of the fund has so far accessed Kenya shillings 4.5 million in 816 transactions, while the top voluntary saver is at 631,491. In the intervening period, the Hustler Fund has also launched a group product which has attracted 50,000 active groups to the platform, and of which 20,000 have received 151 million Kenya shillings. The Hustler Fund has provided us not only the huge pent-up demand for affordable credit, but also the readiness of Kenyans to express or to embrace credit and savings and to pay their loans on time with minimum prompting. The notion that Kenyans are not creditworthy or are high-risk borrowers is nothing more than an unjust financial profiling, which has, in many instances, become a needless, self-fulfilling prophecy. Yesterday, when I called Harrison Karisa Kenga, a tuk-tuk operator in Mombasa, who has accessed 714,000 from the Hustler Fund, he suggested to me to find a way to have the fund provide asset financing so that he can buy for himself a tuk-tuk because the one he had was not his. I assured him that during my address today, I would ask the ministry responsible to respond to him. Consequently, I hereby direct the Ministry of Cooperatives and MSMEs to expeditiously engage Mr. Kenga. I will give you his telephone number. The impact of the Hustler Fund is summarized by a story of a Mr. Sospita Ondiek from Kisii. I suggest that the Kenyan film industry should look for him so that he can tell you his full story. Mr. Ondiek has a plumbing and tiling business in Kisii. And through the Hustler Fund, he has accessed 1.7 million in the many transactions he has undertaken to enhance our savings that have consistently been among the lowest globally, and to correct the delayed transformation of our social security architecture. Fundamental reforms are underway in our savings and social security space. As promised, we committed to take deliberate measures to foster a strong culture of savings amongst Kenyans and enable them mobilize resources for investment and development of intergenerational capital to eliminate old age poverty and to ensure comfort in retirement. Until recently, the rate of Kenya's public pension saving stood at 1.4 billion shillings a month, which is the lowest in our region at only 12.5% of our GDP. As a result of our initial interventions, the savings situation in Kenya is changing for the better. Contributions, honorable members, to the National Security Fund have grown from 1.4 billion shillings in January to 6.5 billion shillings every month, this month. The implication of this growth in our national savings is that it will significantly consolidate our nation's ability to invest in development using domestic resources as opposed to us going to borrow other people's money when they save. Honorable members, majority of Kenyans live in their own rural homes, even though many experience land and settlement challenges, including landlessness, insecure land tenure, and perennial squatter problems. Acute housing challenges are principally an urban phenomenon, and they present a serious threat to health and safety, as well as dignity of people, particularly low-income earners. The proliferation of slums in our urban areas indicate the extent of this serious problem and the urgency with which it must be addressed to enable Kenyans have greater choice in leading dignified, safe, and healthy lives affordably. Low supply of affordable housing units in Kenya is acute, making rent a huge component of the cost of living for many households. The increase in affordable housing units is a strategic intervention to not only supply affordable dwellings for Kenyans, but also as a means to reduce the cost of living. 3 categories of houses will be supplied by this program: social housing, affordable housing, and for the rest, market rate housing. Interest on financing is where we intend to make the big difference. Interest at the moment, as all of us know in this house, is at almost 18%. But under this program, all interest should be or will be at single digit. For social housing, the interest will be at 3%. You know, honorable members, that we all get 3%. So even the people in the social space, they also deserve to get 3%. Those in the affordable housing space will get 6%, and 9% for the people in the market category. The affordable housing program has received tremendous support from county governments across Kenya. And I want to thank governors, and I know the chair of the Council of Governors is here, through her, all governors who have worked with us to make sure that this program becomes a reality. The construction of 46,792 units in various parts of Kenya is already underway, while another 40,000 are ready to commence in a couple of weeks. 50,000 Kenyans are working. People who were previously unemployed, they are now engaged directly and indirectly in this enterprise. And the numbers will significantly increase as the projects move into the next phase and as we roll out many more units. A total of 746,795 housing units are in the pipeline as I talk to you, under various stages of delivery. More jobs are being created with the formalization of the Jua Kali clusters, providing products like doors, hinges, and windows. And this morning, as I visited one of the sites that I went to launch the construction in March, I was amazed that a site that was flat in March today, and I was with the Member of Parliament for Ruto, today has 8 11-block units, almost at 60% complete. And I also met the Jua Kali cluster for Ruto, and they have been given a contract of 140 million to be able to supply doors and windows. Architects, engineers, quantity surveyors, masons, electricians, plumbers, transporters, steel and cement factory workers, and hardware merchants will be partakers in this transformative plan. I spoke to Moses today at the site in Ruto, an electrician, and he told me out of the 1,700 workers in the site today, he was in charge of 114 electricians who are engaged in that site. And he asked me, Mr. President, make sure the next site is ready for us, because we will finish this ahead of time. Let me also say, we are constructing 400 markets across Kenya to provide Mama Mboga with a dignified working environment, complete with water, electricity, and other amenities. And I want to thank members of this House for participating in various ways and working with us and also with the counties in identifying the right locations for these markets. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable members, our education system must develop a formidable reservoir of skill, talent, highly competitive and innovative human capital to support our vision of an economically transformed Kenya. Within weeks of taking office, I appointed the Presidential Working Party on Education Reform, led by Professor Raphael Munavu, my former teacher, who provided clarity on transition to the new competence-based curriculum and made further recommendations on necessary reforms in our education system from early childhood all the way to the tertiary levels. The Working Party concluded its work and submitted a report whose recommendations are already being implemented. The urgent and vexing question of transition to junior school has been settled, and the Kenya Primary School Education Assessment will be used for the exclusive purpose of monitoring learners' progress and not for placement in any grade. In keeping with our commitment, 56,750 new teachers have been employed. I'm sure the Honorable Milemba can confirm this. While 8,200 primary school teachers were retrained to equip them with capacity to effectively deliver learning and teaching at junior school levels. With changes to the entry requirements for teacher training colleges, admission has increased by 300% to now 20,456 trainees. I was privileged to be in Kwale last week to open the Kwale Teacher Training College, which had only less than 100 students a few months ago. And when I went there, the principal told me that the numbers have increased 4 times. At the tertiary level, the Working Party recommended an overhaul of the existing education funding framework to a variable scholarship and loan model in order to address the financing gap which denied many Kenyans the opportunity to pursue tertiary education in our universities and TVETs, but also created many complications in our universities and institutions of higher learning that by last year, our universities had accumulated debts of close to 60 billion Kenya shillings. I sat down with all the vice chancellors of our 41 public universities, and we came up with a proposal that we are now implementing. The new model for financial support is student-centered and deploys a rigorous, impartial means testing instrument to establish the level of need of every student, which then becomes the primary consideration in allocating scholarships and loans. To fully democratize our education system and make higher education accessible and affordable to all, we have also chartered the Open University of Kenya, following requisite cabinet and parliamentary approvals. I want to thank this House for expediting the Open University Charter that had been in the works for the last 10 years. I also want to announce to you that the first 1,000 students will report next month. In the course of consulting Kenyans from all walks of life during the formulation of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, the foundational contribution of health to citizen well-being and the role of costs in driving up poverty were identified as chronic. The implications are very clear, and we cannot afford to delay the delivery of universal health care anymore. Consequently, we have instituted radical reforms in the provision of healthcare services in Kenya, including the enactment of 4 new laws that will anchor the implementation of this bottom-up approach to healthcare. I am tremendously grateful to this House and honorable members for enacting the Primary Health Care Act, the new Social Health Insurance Act, the Digital Health Act, and the Facility Improvement Financing Act. These laws, honorable members, will usher in and guarantee a new era in the provision of healthcare, covering all essential services from preventive, promotive, curative, palliative, and rehabilitative services, guaranteeing every Kenyan access to comprehensive and quality healthcare. Under Afya Nyumbani, we have scaled up our investment in healthcare workforce, employing 20,000 new healthcare workers, deploying 8,429 workers whose contracts had lapsed, and enrolling 3,394 interns across the country to increase the availability of human capital in our public health sector. Working with county governments, and I'm again grateful to them, we have taken measures to resolve the perennial challenge of human resource management in the health sector, occasioning strikes, by establishing the Kenya Health Human Resource Advisory Council, which will be a trusted mediator between government at both levels and our health sector workers. Further, under the Afya Nyumbani model, we identified preventive care as an essential pillar of healthcare service delivery because it enables Kenyans to manage their conditions early enough before they cause serious harm in their well-being and productivity. Community health promotion is our bottom-up intervention to deliver preventive and promotive health solutions at the grassroots by deploying community health promoters to visit Kenyans at their homes, provide basic diagnosis for common conditions, and refer cases to appropriate medical facilities. Together with all the 47 counties, and again, I am grateful to the governors, we have deployed 100,000 community health promoters fully equipped with the necessary kits and an electronic community health information system. In the last 1 month, CHPs have attended to 1.2 million households, just in the last 1 month. I spoke on phone to Mr. Masood Dirie, a community health promoter in Garissa, yesterday, who told me he has been a community health promoter, health volunteer since 2011. Unlike before, now he has a full medical kit and has used it to confirm that 7 people in his locality had high blood pressure. In a twist of fate, he tested himself and discovered that he too had high blood pressure. That's what he told me. And so, apart from referring others, he also had to make way to the hospital. Mr. Obembi Ogutu of Homa Bay told me that the program now makes primary health care a paperless engagement, saying it had started to reduce queues in hospitals. Through the Facility Improvement Financing Act 2023, we have established a framework that confers financial autonomy to health facilities, enabling them to retain funds generated with a mandate to improve facilities, capacity, and to provide healthcare services within that locality. In addition, the Kenya Medical Supplies Agency, as part of many radical reforms, will now deploy ICT to manage supply chains of essential health products and commodities. As a result of this small intervention, KEMSA has improved its stocking rate from 40% to 60% in the last 5 months. And we are now targeting 80% by March next year. As it's becoming clear, we cannot hope anymore to deliver services to Kenyans in their millions across the country with any measure of efficiency, integrity, transparency, and accountability without ICT. From education and health, To agriculture and financial inclusion, digital technologies reign supreme in transforming service delivery, governance improvements, and catalyzing efficiency throughout the economy. We have commenced the rollout of 100,000 kilometers of the last mile fiber optic connectivity to make reliable high-speed internet available throughout Kenya, along with 25,000 free Wi-Fi hotspots in all market centers. The rollout, and I was given a statistics by the end of this year, the first 2,200 will be rolled out, and another 1,450 ICT hubs in every ward. I want to thank the membership of this House for considering to change the NGCDF Act so that you can also deploy those resources in the ICT space and enable millions of young people in your constituencies and wards to access internet and technology for digital jobs, e-commerce, and to give them the possibility of working on remote jobs. I have engaged the chair and committee of this House in that space. We have agreed on the model of how the ICT hub will look like, and I am truly grateful that Parliament came through and considered changing the law so that we can work on this together. We have expanded digital provision of public services to encompass 13,000 services to date, and it is my commitment to ensure full digitization by the end of next month. Our decision to enhance efficiency and integrity in the provision of government services has gone a long way to improve revenue collection. Working with the private sector, we launched the local assembly of affordable smartphones last week in Athi River. Digitization and automation enhance service delivery and citizen satisfaction, and also assures greater accuracy, transparency, and accountability, and reduces opportunity for corruption in the course of transacting with government ministries, departments, and agencies. Corruption, honorable members, wastage, inefficiency, and negligence are serious threats to our transformation agenda and unacceptable practice that has no place in our nation. I have given my firm assurance to the people of Kenya that cases of misconduct and corruption shall be dealt with ruthlessly, with finality, and expeditiously. I ask this honorable House to finalize the Assets Declaration and Conflict of Interest Bill to further tighten our anti-corruption policy framework and eliminate space for those who want to steal our money. The security and safety of all citizens is our foremost commitment and most fundamental obligation, without which every other endeavor is not possible. The reason why Kenya has continued on the path of steady progress is that we have maintained stability, peace, and security by affirming our territorial integrity and maintaining internal tranquility. This is not to say our country has not had its share of security challenges. The specter of terrorism is a continuing threat that we must remain constantly vigilant against. Pockets of banditry, cattle rustling, and armed lawlessness have besieged and devastated communities in the North Rift, Northeastern, and occasionally parts of Eastern and the coast regions. We all know that insecurity disrupts lives and destroys livelihoods. Our country has lost too many people to this menace. Many children have been orphaned and missed school, and many families have been displaced because of lawless men taking up illegal arms and waging war against communities. The government exists to ensure that those who challenge our sovereignty, territorial integrity, national security, and the safety of the people of Kenya are expeditiously countered and rendered harmless. We have therefore taken firm and decisive measures to deal with the challenge of banditry, armed crime, cattle rustling, and other forms of impunity in all parts of the country, beginning with a successful security operation to restore calm in the North Rift. We have been systematic, focused, thorough, unrelenting, and totally committed to removing for good all threats to lives and livelihoods of Kenyans. I know there are pushbacks from the criminals, but I want to assure the honorable members of this House that we will be unrelenting. And until it is done, it is not done. In discharging this commitment, we have been mindful not to use security imperatives to commit impunity, including misuse of resources and extrajudicial infringement on freedoms and fundamental human rights of citizens. Sorry. We are conscious to provide security as a public service for the benefit of law-abiding citizens and as a guarantor of economic growth. Therefore, our security services have been committed to a citizen-centric, rights-focused, inclusive, and community-based security strategy. I am therefore quite clear that there exists no tension between the effective delivery of security services and the upholding of human rights and fundamental freedoms. We can be, and therefore must be, secure, yet free and democratic. In order to entrench our all-of-society coalition, we have resolved to enhance diversity and inclusion by expanding enrollment in the National Youth Service as an agency to capture young people at the bottom of the pyramid. Consequently, we are doubling enrollment to 40,000 yearly in the National Youth Service and have made it absolutely mandatory that every village, center, town, and city in Kenya is properly represented in the recruitment. To consolidate this proposition, we have directed that 80% of future recruitment to all security services, from the military, the police, KWS, Kenya Forest Service, and all other security agencies, 80% will come from the well-trained, talented, and committed young men and women who have undergone training at the NYS. Kenya finds itself continuously summoned to its duty of care to serve as a reliable anchor to our region's security, peace, and stability. We continue to answer our historic, moral, and strategic responsibilities to deploy our resources in solidarity with our region in general and our immediate neighborhood in particular. To prevent the imminent collapse of Goma in eastern DRC, which we have had would have had serious consequences for the wider East African region, we deployed our troops under the East African Community Regional Force. We have continued to anchor the fight against Al-Shabaab in Somalia under the Africa Union Transition Mission in Somalia. The Kenya Defense Forces continues to make Kenya proud, and I salute them. It is our firm position that only a democratically accountable system that is sensitive and responsive to the adverse and diverse composition of Sudan can secure that country. Given the regional interconnectedness, together with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the US, we have engaged the Jeddah process as IGAD to fashion a framework that will be best placed to successfully deliver peace in Sudan. Honorable members, our economy is firmly interconnected with regional, continental, and global economic systems. Our security and stability is likewise integrated with those of our neighbors. Kenya has a fundamental, essential, legitimate, and clear interest in conducting robust diplomacy in form of bilateral and multilateral engagements. For the last 12 months, we have continued to fulfill our international obligations through Kenya's leadership in the international arena. This is underscored by the high-level summits Kenya has hosted and participated in. Kenya successfully hosted the inaugural first-ever Africa Climate Summit. We also hosted the 43rd Ordinary Session of the Executive Council, the 5th Mid-Year Coordination Meeting of the Africa Union, and the Regional Economic Communities, and the first-ever African edition of the Berlin Climate and Security Conference in Nairobi. All these summits have brought into our country about 30 heads of state and government and over 30,000 delegates from different parts of the world. The government has made deliberate efforts to harness the immense and potential of Kenyans also in the diaspora. Indeed, I established the State Department of Diaspora in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs so that they can fully participate in the affairs of our motherland. I have committed to work collaboratively, consultatively, and collectively with the counties and all Kenyans to uphold our cherished national values as human dignity, equity, social justice, national unity, inclusiveness, integrity, good governance, transparency, and accountability. I encourage all honorable members and indeed all Kenyans to embrace an open mindset in regard to national strategic interests and to leverage on our rich heritage and diversity. One of the greatest strengths of our country is our capacity to devise bold, unprecedented solutions to our threats and challenges, create imaginative strategies to avert danger, and chart new paths to deliver us from adversity. There is no doubt that our nation has been confronted with immense pressure emanating from political misunderstandings sometimes and electoral disagreements. And it is because we have a robust democracy, which we are very proud of. Such pressure can disrupt lives and livelihoods and undermine our economy. Thankfully, Kenyans always find the moral strength and political imagination to reach across the political divide and engage in dialogue in the spirit of goodwill, fraternity, and commitment to the national interest and the welfare of the nation. It would be, honorable members, remiss of me not to mention the ongoing bipartisan process of national dialogue that has enabled our leaders to find common ground on many of the issues whose resolution will accelerate our transformation, deepen our democracy, and enhance national unity. Specifically, I thank the two co-chairs, my good brother, Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, our former president, and the leader of majority in the House, Kimani Ichung'wah, for doing a wonderful job. Congratulations, gentlemen. I salute the courage and patriotism of my fellow leaders who have embraced national dialogue and engage and encourage all of us to keep up the noble work of bringing Kenyans together. There is so much to report about the progress we have made in serving the people of Kenya and transforming our economy. I have provided only a summarized highlight of the most salient instances of transformational progress in my address. it is my pleasant duty to hand to the speakers of the Houses of Parliament the three reports in full as follows. The 10th Annual Report on measures taken and progress made in the realization of the national values and principles of governance. The 10th Annual Report on progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic of Kenya. Number 3, the 10th Annual Report on the state of national security. I will not hesitate to acknowledge with profound humility that a lot of the successes we have achieved in delivering the bottom-up economic transformation agenda was due to the patriotic support and solidarity from members of this House, both in the Senate and the National Assembly. We are fortunate to be attempting this ambitious historic project of radical change in a bipartisan era when dialogue, consensus, collaboration, and partnership have replaced dissent, contention, conflict, and disarray as the operating principles of political discourse. Issue-oriented politics, honorable members, is not just a democratic necessity and a pathway to sustainable transformation. It is the most effective way of mobilizing diversity for collective national good. As the world reels from the destructive assaults on democracy and the relentless subversion of human dignity, freedom reigns supreme in our land, and our democracy grows deeper and more robust by the day. Our collective resolve as a nation to further entrench constitutionalism, democracy, good governance is a unique quality, confers on us an incomparable advantage, the power to face the future without fear, to imagine a transformation that extends to posterity and envisions prosperity that benefits our children's offsprings and beyond. As long as we put the welfare of the people of Kenya as our central agenda and play our respective roles in ensuring that government is effective and accountable, efficient and transparent, Kenya's best fortunes are well within our reach. I am persuaded, honorable members, beyond any reasonable doubt, that we shall achieve transformation beyond our wildest dreams within this generation. As a leadership and as a people, we have a historic opportunity to preside over the greatest transformation and progress ever witnessed in our nation. Kenya is a nation of brave, hardworking, enterprising people who are determined to prevail in the struggle for economic freedom and win the race for prosperity. In a nation like ours, great deeds will be accomplished whenever and wherever opportunity exists. This is why the hard work we have done is already showing the promise of abundant fruit. We have laid a firm foundation for rapid development, and Kenya is no longer on the marks. The state of our nation at this moment in time is prepared, all set, and ready to go. I thank you, God bless you, and God bless Kenya. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, please be upstanding. Your Excellency the President, the Right Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, honorable members, we have come to the conclusion of the business of the day, and it is now time to adjourn. The Senate stands adjourned until Tuesday, 14th of November 2023 at 2:30 p.m. in the Senate chamber. I thank you.
Honorable members remain upstanding. Honorable members of the National Assembly, the National Assembly now stands adjourned until Tuesday, 14th November 2023 at 2:30 p.m. May I also take this opportunity, Excellency the President, to invite all honorable members and our guests to a reception at the Parliament courtyard. May I also request all of you honorable members and our guests to remain standing in your places until the procession of His Excellency the President and the speakers leave the chamber. I thank you.
You have been watching a special coverage of the proceedings of Parliament of Kenya, a joint sitting of the National Assembly and the Senate, where the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, has issued the State of the Nation address. This live broadcast has been brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in conjunction with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. My name is Edward Kabasa. Good evening.
this whole proceeding or this whole sitting and the hearing will be taking place. Remember, after the sitting starts at 9 a.m. or once the chair is taken, the members will be retreating to have a pre-hearing meeting of the senators in a closed door session. Then they will be resuming to the chambers at around 11 according to the order of business for the day, and then the hearing will be open to the public. But a look at what exactly this governor faces is that when the Senate received the resolutions from the County Assembly pursuant to Standing Order 80 over the House on the procedure for removal of a governor, is that within 7 days after receiving notice of a resolution from the Speaker of a County Assembly supporting the removal of a governor of a county, of course, pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution, there are two options. The Speaker of the Senate shall convene a meeting of the Senate to hear the charges against the governor, and in this case, the House can make a resolution on whether to hear these proceedings or these accusations at a committee stage or at plenary. And what we understand is that the House on Tuesday resolved to have these matters investigated and determined at the plenary. So today marks the beginning of the official hearing over the proposed removal from office by impeachment of Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, the governor of Meru County. And like I told you earlier, is that the Speaker will be getting into the chambers, give a communication, of course, guiding the House on how this whole process will take place, and the senators will be retreating to a closed session. I now hand you over to this live broadcast. Good morning.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we beseech you to behold with abundant favor and blessings us, your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you've committed to our charge. Amen. Clerk, do we have quorum? Sergeant at Arms, kindly ring the quorum bell for 10 minutes.
That is the Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Amason Jeffa Kingi. He has taken the chair, but before the commencement of the House business, remember, much as this sitting is on the consideration or the hearing of the proposed removal from office by impeachment of Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, the governor of Meru County, the House has to follow the standing orders that at the commencement of a sitting, then the House has to have a requisite quorum. In this case, 15 members needed to be in the chambers for the House to commence its business at any particular sitting or at any committee of the whole. So in this case, the bell will ring for 10 minutes as directed by the Speaker. Of course, this is pursuant to the House Standing Order number 40. But even before the lapse of the 10 minutes, if the House has achieved or will have achieved the requisite quorum, then the Speaker will call the House to order, of course, and the business will start or rather will commence. But I look at what exactly this sitting is all about this morning. Remember, the Senate usually sits in the afternoon sitting, and today is a Tuesday. Its normal plenary sittings is on an afternoon, but today we are having this sitting on Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. and this is purposely to have the hearing of the proposed removal from office by impeachment of Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, the Meru County Governor. So the quorum bell is on. But remember, the House last week resolved to have these accusations against the governor be heard and determined at the plenary sitting. So today marks the official sitting. And this was determined on Tuesday of 31st. And the both sides, that is the county assembly, remember what has been happening since the House ruled that the investigation or the hearing will be done at the plenary, is that the parties were summoned to the parties, by parties I mean the county assembly and the executive, that is the side of the governor, was summoned to forward their submission to the Senate. In this case, looking at what the accusations the county assembly had leveled against the governor, if there is any evidence, perhaps personal statements, again as sworn affidavits, and any other material that they will be using to defend the accusations that they have leveled against the governor. And they had until Saturday. This was after 4 days, of course, pursuant to the law. That is after 4 days, once the communication has been done at the Senate on the resolutions by a county assembly on the proposed removal from office of a governor. Within 4 days, both parties are given to forward their submissions to the Senate. And the deadline for this particular case was on Saturday at 5 p.m., where, of course, both parties, that is the governor's side and the county assembly's side, complied and forwarded their submissions. Of course, from the governor's side, we will be expecting that they give out, of course, evidence to counter the accusations that have been leveled against the governor, and any other material that they deem fit to absolve the governor of the charges that have been leveled against her. Of course, the submissions also contained the legal team from both parties. We shall be taking a look at what, or rather who are in those legal teams for both sides. But that is what has been happening since the communication was made at the Senate on the proposed removal from office by impeachment of Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, the governor of Meru County, today marking the official commencement of the hearing over the impeachment of Governor Kawira Mwangaza. Remember, this is not the first time governor lands at the Senate with regards to impeachment proposals. Last year, in December, the governor was also at the Senate chambers, of course, the hearing, but remember that time the investigation of the matter was done at the committee stage. Then a report was brought to the plenary, and members had the report or read the report of the committee, and they, at the end of the day, voted on each charge that the governor was facing. This time round, the governor is facing 7 charges, and the members will have an opportunity to scrutinize each and every of this charge. Remember, it will not be investigated at the committee, but at the whole plenary sitting. All members, the 67 members, will have an opportunity to look at these charges. On Saturday, when both parties gave out their submissions, is that the submissions were exchanged between the two parties, each party having a few copies of the other party's submissions. And of course, this is to give them an opportunity to look at what the other party has, and also prepare how to defend or how to counter the accusations that have been put forth before the Senate against the governor. And remember also, the members of the Senate also were forwarded a few copies, of course, to take a look at what the accusations are, what the evidence is being tabled, and what documents have been forwarded. Then once they come to the chambers, then they will be having information on how to go about all this matter. Remember, each and every senator will have an opportunity to scrutinize both the governor and the county assembly on what has been forwarded to the Senate with regards to the accusations that are being leveled against the governor. If you are just joining us, it is a quorum bell that is currently underway. The sitting was scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. The Speaker has taken the chair, but there is no quorum at the House to warrant the commencement of House business. 15 members are needed to be in the chambers to enable the House to commence its business, and this is pursuant to the House Standing Order number 40. If the quorum is not present, the House business cannot commence, and a quorum bell will be rung for 10 minutes. Of course, this is to alert members that the business of the House or the House is about to start its business, but cannot because the House does not have the required number of members in the chambers, seated at the chambers for it to commence its business. So the quorum bell will be on. Members are expected to be walking in. We have seen the Nairobi Senator, Honorable Edwin C. Funa, who is also the Deputy Minority Whip. And he walked out of the chambers to see whether he will be seeing any members, but we saw him, of course, walking back into the chambers. Perhaps there are still no members within the precincts of Parliament, but of course the bell is to alert them that in case you are within the precincts of Parliament, then your presence inside the chambers is highly required to give way or to pave way for the commencement of the House business. Remember, this is a morning sitting on a Tuesday of the Senate, a day that is set aside to hear the impeachment proposals forwarded to the Senate by the Meru County Assembly. On Tuesday, the Senate resolved to hear and determine this particular case at plenary. So these accusations of the governor or against the governor will be heard at the plenary sitting with all the 67 members of the Senate in the chambers, and will have an opportunity to scrutinize what these charges are. 7 charges are facing the governor. One is on the misappropriation and misuse of county resources. And there are a number of particulars that are within this particular number 1 charge on the misappropriation of misuse of county resources. These particulars may include embezzled county funds through the governor's relatives. She's also accused of having withdrawn county funds through false claims of payment for supplies and service rendered by the governor's relatives, despite being ineligible to tender for or supply goods to the county governors. Those are just but a few of the particulars that the governor is said to have committed in charge number 1 on the misappropriation and misuse of county resources. Charge number 2, the governor is accused of nepotism and related unethical practices. In this case, having fraudulently represented unqualified relatives as a technical team for medical equipment inspection in China. Also employed one Edwin Mutuma Murangiri, a nephew to her husband, in a key county position. Also assigned diplomatic duties with engagements with foreign diplomats and all right. The Speaker has directed that a further 5-minute quorum bell be rung, of course, to allow the members to walk into the chambers. Let me take you back to what the quorum bell is all about. Earlier on, when the chair was taken by the Speaker, a prayer was said, and according to the House Standing Order number 40, is that once a prayer is done and the House lacks the requisite quorum, that is 15 members in the chambers. As you can see, there are no members seated in the chambers. We can only see one senator, that is Honorable Edwin Sifuna, of course. There are also other members nominated, Senator Catherine Muma there. So if the House does not have a requisite number, that is 15 members in the chambers seated at the commencement of House business, then a quorum bell will be on for 10 minutes. We have seen the quorum bell being rung for 10 minutes. And according to the House Standing Order is once the 10-minute quorum bell expires, the Speaker may direct that the bell be rung for a further 10 minutes. In this case, the Speaker has given that directive that another 10-minute quorum bell be rung. And once the second 10-minute quorum bell lapses and there is no quorum achieved yet, then the Speaker shall adjourn the Senate forthwith to the next sitting. That is what the House Standing Order stipulates. And of course, we are hoping that the quorum will be achieved. Remember, the Senate normally on Tuesday sits at 2:30 p.m. in the plenary sittings or proceedings. But today, following the business that is before it, this morning sitting was set aside to have the impeachment hearing over the Meru Governor, Honorable Kawira Mwangaza. This is after the county resolved to have her removed from office by impeachment. And of course, according to the law, the Senate is the House that will be hearing this particular case. The House last week resolved to have the matter heard and determined in the plenary way, and that is what today should be happening at the Senate chambers. We are hoping that the number will be achieved, but of course, if it's not achieved, then the Speaker will guide the House on the way forward. What was expected this morning is that the Speaker was to give guidance on how the hearing or the process will go. The sitting was starting at around 9. The Speaker make a communication to the House to guide them on how the hearing of the impeachment of the governor will be taking place. It is scheduled to start today and conclude tomorrow on Wednesday. But of course, there has to be a communication on how it will go. And after the communication, the members were to retreat to a pre-hearing meeting. This is to be on a closed-door session. So we will be waiting to hear from the Speaker on how he will be guiding the House forthwith if the quorum is not achieved. But we are hoping that the quorum will be achieved. At least 15 members are needed to be in the chambers for the commencement of the House to kick off. On Tuesday, when the House resolved to have the hearing of the impeachment be done the plenary way, according to the House Standing Order, is that within 10 days, it shall investigate the matter. So the House received the communication of the resolution of the County Assembly on Tuesday. And of course, from Tuesday, the Senate is counting 10 days to be able to investigate the matter. If the accusations are substantiated or not substantiated, then the communication or the way forward will be given. But remember, today marks the beginning of this impeachment hearing of the Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza. So if you're just joining us, that is a 10-minute quorum bell still on. Allow me to take a look at what the charges or accusations that have been leveled against the governor are. There are 7 charges. The first is the misappropriation and misuse of county resources, nepotism and related unethical practices. That is the Senator of Nairobi County, Honorable Edwin Sifuna, walking to this senator, of course, engaging him on how they will be picking up this matter if the House does not achieve the requisite quorum to enable it commence its business for this particular morning. Charge number 3 against the governor is that bullying, vilification, and demeaning other leaders. In this case, the governor is said to have excluded the deputy governor from county executive committee meetings and other official functions. The governor is also said to have engaged in bullying and posted demeaning messages about the deputy governor in WhatsApp groups. In this case known as Third Government 012, the county admin services, whose membership includes several officers who are subordinate to the deputy governor. The governor is also accused of illegal appointments and usurpation of statutory powers. That she appointed Kenneth Mwiti Riungu as chief officer without county assembly approval. That she deployed other persons to perform the functions of those sent on compulsory leave, this being in breach of a court order. Also appointed unqualified persons as acting chief officers without the requisite competitive recruitment and recommendation from the County Public Service Board. She's also said to have recruited traffic marshals without involving the County Public Service Board, in this case disregarding the criteria for establishing county offices, that is the Kitui. Senator Honorable Enoch Wambua walking in. And of course we are hopeful that more members will be getting into the chambers, because this day has been set aside purposely to transact the business on the impeachment hearing over the Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza. The hearing is slated for today and tomorrow, Wednesday, the 8th of November. And the speaker, who has already taken the chair, is that was to make a communication this morning guiding the House on how this process will be taken through, and then the members were to proceed on a pre-hearing meeting in a closed session. But the members have not yet made their way to the chambers for that particular guidance or communication from the chair to know how they will be going about this matter. And that necessitated, or rather that is what has necessitated the 10-minute quorum bell. That is Narok Senator, who is also the minority whip, Honorable Olekina Ledama. They are getting in. So as the quorum bell is on, we will be seeing the members walking in. Once the quorum is achieved this time round, being hopeful that the sergeant at arms will alert the clerk and the speaker that the quorum has been achieved, and the speaker will call the House to order for the commencement of the House. But as you can see, no members yet to make the requisite quorum. At the table of the speaker, engagements are on, from the clerk to the a number of senators there. Of course, maybe engaging on how this will be picked up if the quorum is not achieved. But this is the second quorum bell. Remember, the first one has lapsed, and this is the second bell. That is the Vihiga Senator, Godfrey Osotsi. And of course, we will be hearing from the speaker on how he will be guiding the House the way forward if the quorum is not achieved. 15 members, just to remind you, is the number that is required. The speaker is talking. Let's listen in.
The bell for a further 10 minutes.
Yet another 10-minute quorum bell. If the 10 minutes this time round lapse, that will be a cumulative of 30 minutes. Is it that the members were not aware that the sitting will be starting at 9? Maybe they thought it will be starting at 9:30 as the usual, or rather the normal plenary sitting, especially the one that is held on a Wednesday. It usually starts at 9:30. Perhaps the members will be making calls to their colleagues to remind them that this morning there was this a sitting that is meant to be hearing the impeachment proposals from the County Assembly of Meru that resolved to have the Governor, Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, be removed from office by impeachment, and that the Senate on Tuesday resolved to have this matter be heard and determined at the plenary sitting or the plenary way. Remember, the Senate last week found itself a bit sharply divided on how to, or rather the best approach to hear and determine this case, and the majority of the numbers resolved to have the matter be heard and determined at the plenary sitting. A number of impeachment hearings that have taken place at the Senate is that have been heard and determined at a committee level of 11 members, but this was not agreed upon last week when they were looking at the best approach to look at this matter, and the matter was resolved to be heard at the plenary. So this marks the first sitting and first day to hear the impeachment proposal as forwarded to the Senate. And this morning the House was to sit, get a communication from the Speaker and guide them on how to go about the case. Then the members were to proceed on a pre-hearing meeting, or rather retreat on a pre-hearing meeting in a closed-door session, then resume the sittings and be open to the public at around 11 a.m. So up until now, the chair, or rather the Speaker, has taken the seat. A few members are in the chambers, but the quorum is the elephant in the House. It has not been achieved yet. 15 members have not been able to make their way to the chambers to enable the House to commence its business. Of course, we can say that is paralyzing the House business this morning. And of course, we'll be waiting to see whether the quorum is achieved. If this quorum bell that is currently underway, it is another 10-minute quorum bell that is underway. It's a 10-minute. If the number is not achieved at the lapse of these 10 minutes, then it will be a cumulative of 30 minutes of waiting for the senators to make their way to the chambers for this sitting. Is it because it is a chilly morning, or maybe they thought that the sitting will start at 9:30? We will be waiting to see how that pans out. But as it is that today's morning sitting was the commencement, or mark the beginning of the impeachment hearing of the Governor of Meru. This is Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, having been accused of 7 charges by the County Assembly of Meru, and forwarded these charges and its resolution to the Senate to have the matter investigated and determined. 7 charges facing the governor. Earlier on, we looked at 4 charges. The 5th charge is that the governor is accused of contempt of court. She is said to have grossly violated Article 10 and 73 of the Constitution, Section 7 of the Leadership and Integrity Act, and Section 10 of the Public Officers Ethics Act, by engaging in a contumacious, stubborn refusal to obey lawful court orders. Charge number 6 that the governor is accused of is that illegally naming a public road after her husband. This includes grossly violated Articles 10 and 73 of the Constitution, and Sections 7 and 11, 1C of the Meru County Owners and Awards Act 2018, by naming a public road after her husband without following the applicable statutory procedures. The last charge that the governor is being accused of is the contempt of the Assembly. She is said to have refused to honor summons from the County Assembly's Sectoral Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Cohesion to answer questions related to the impeachment motion, also directed her chief of staff to send a contemptuous letter to the Assembly in response to the summons for her to appear before the sectoral committee. And through the CECM Finance, this is the Minister of Finance at the county level, and the county secretary refused to furnish documents to the Assembly on the grounds that an audit process was underway and that the matters raised by the Assembly were sub judice. These are some of the particulars within the 7 charges that the governor is accused of or is facing, and that the Senate at the plenary sitting is expected to investigate, scrutinize, and make a decision on whether these accusations that have been accused, or rather that have been leveled against the governor by the county assembly, will be substantiated or not. But remember, these accusations will be heard and determined at the plenary sitting, or rather the plenary sitting way. On Saturday, the two parties, the two sides, forwarded, it was the last day for the two parties to be able to forward their submissions to the Senate. All right, those are more members. That is the Deputy Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Kathuri Murungi, of course, walking in, and followed by various members. Hopefully that the number this time round will be achieved. The time now is 9:33, and we can see the members walking in numbers. And in a few minutes, of course, we are hoping that the Sergeant at Arms will, indicate to us, or rather to the Speaker, that finally the quorum has been achieved. Nyeri Senator, they are walking in with the majority leader, Honorable Aaron Cheruiyot. So the quorum has been achieved. The quorum has been achieved finally at 9:33. So allow me to hand you over to this live broadcast. Good morning.
Much later, kindly take your seats. Honorable Senators, order. Senator Ledama, kindly take your seat. Majority Leader. Majority Leader, you should be helping the chair to bring calm in the House. Clerk, you may proceed to call the first order.
Order number 1, communication from the chair.
Now, honorable senators, you will recall that at the sitting of the Senate held on Thursday, 2nd November 2023, I appointed Tuesday 7th and Wednesday 8th November 2023 as the days when the Senate will hear the charges for the proposed removal from office by impeachment of Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, the Governor of Meru County. Subsequently, a procedural motion for the alteration of the sitting time of the Senate for Tuesday 7th and Wednesday 8th November 2023 to facilitate the impeachment hearing against the Governor of Meru County was considered and approved by the Senate on Thursday 2nd November 2023. Consequently, a hearing program has been prepared and appended to today's order paper. Honorable Senators, as is the tradition, and in line with the schedule of activities for an impeachment hearing and plenary, the Senate will hold a closed preparatory session to discuss the management of the investigation. This is aimed at ensuring that the process is conducted seamlessly and concluded tempestuously, in line with the requirements set out under the County Governments Act and the Senate Standing Orders. I now, therefore, direct that all members of public, including the media, to withdraw from the galleries and any form of broadcast from the chamber to cease forthwith. The open session and hearing will thereafter commence at 11 a.m. as per the hearing program. I thank you.
Well, as I had indicated earlier, is that the Speaker was to make a communication to the senators, guiding them on how the process will be going, and that communication has been made. Then the members are retreating to a pre-hearing session. This is a closed session, so they will be done by 11. It will be open to the public at 11 a.m. Allow me to hand it back to our studios in KBC for normal programming. But at 11, we shall be back with the proceedings over the Senate on this day. Good morning.